the Life series.
Oh, that one's real.
Oh
my god! You know, the only person that we're missing here right now is Good Times with Scar.
You are incorrect, aha.
And the boys, baby! And the boys, baby! And the boys, baby! And the boys, baby!
No.
Something wicked this way comes.
She's losing her freaking mind. She's crazy.
Anything?
The SMP created by Grian that I like describing as the Hunger Games, but worse. If you did or did not know, there is quote-unquote lore in the Life series. Well, more accurately, it is an AU created by Martin in the Littlewood that only affects his POV of the Life series. A lot of fans, including myself, really like his AU and love learning all about it. So that's what this video is for. I'll be explaining all of Martin's canon story in his AU. So let's get started. To first understand Martin's AU, we have to go back about 6 years to another SMP that Grian created called Evolution SMP, or EVO for short. Grian wasn't the only Life series member that was in EVO though. Martin, Jimmy, Big B, and Pearl were in it too. There was canonical lore in EVO that introduced these angel-like beings called the Watchers. The Watchers were first thought of as good beings. They punished the people who did bad deeds and rewarded good deeds. They also had a symbol that looked like this. At one point, towards the end, a bunch of people decided to fight the Ender Dragon, including Grian. However, they were all separated and were in the end by themselves having to fight their own dragon. After they killed their dragon, everyone jumped in the portal to go back home. They were able to speak to the Watchers for the first time, and the Watchers were like, "Hey, we're taking Grian and making him a Watcher too, and we're not going to tell you why, okay?" "Okay." And everyone was like, "Okay." And the Watchers added, "Oh yeah, and we're kicking you out of your home." What? They then are introduced to these other beings called the Listeners. They tell the players they do not agree with the Watchers' decision of taking Grian and help them out. They quickly realize that the Watchers were not the angelic beings that they seemed, and the Listeners helped everyone escape from EVO and, in turn, the Watchers. Not Third Life. So, the Watchers have the bright idea of coming up with these death games. For the first game, Third Life, they decided that everyone has 3 lives and all the other rules that were in Third Life. The reason why they created these games was because they feed off of human emotion, and they realized that the negative ones, quote-unquote, taste better. Grian does not like this decision, and he decided to join the games himself to try to help his friends by turning it into a somewhat fun time. Late into the game, the Watchers start taking interest in Martin, and they finally talked to him after he lost his second life, and they told him to basically turn on Ren and kill him. Although we know this doesn't happen, and because of that, the Watchers are not pleased and state that they will change the game next time. Another thing I should mention is that at the end of every game, all of the players, except Grian because he's a Watcher, are asleep, falling in an endless void in between games. And the reason for this is because humans naturally have a fear of falling, and even though the players don't know they're falling, they naturally still get a little scared, and so the Watchers are still feeding when everyone is asleep. Last Life. The Watchers changed the game to now add the Boogeyman, which would make people feel more emotions of betrayal and confusion, which, quote-unquote, tasted the best out of all the negative emotions. So obviously we know Martin was a part of the Southlanders, and after the first session and before the second session, Martin had a conversation with the Watchers, which he started calling the Shadow, and asked if him and all of his teammates could join the Shadow in the end dimension after all of this was over. The quote-unquote Shadow agreed to have everyone except Grian and would not give an explanation, but Martin was like, "Good enough, at least it's almost all my teammates." A little later, the Watchers told Martin to secretly team up with Ren. They realized they made a mistake telling Martin to betray him last game because they work well together, to create something called Shadow Clans that were supposed to secretly infiltrate the server, but we don't really know what was supposed to happen with that because it started and ended with the Shadow Alliance. When Martin was picked to be the Boogeyman, yeah, picked, not randomly chosen, because the Watchers specifically picked who was going to be the Boogeyman every session, even though to the players it looked like it's random. Martin got picked, and the Shadow told him to betray Grian by killing him, but we know he doesn't succeed, and the Shadow is not pleased. Next session, the Watchers realized that everyone that Martin cared about was gone. He started quote-unquote hallucinating, doing Mumbo's intro with Jimmy and Mumbo, who were pumpkin armor stands. But what was really happening is that the Watchers were taking the form of pumpkins, which is the only physical form they can take, and were mocking Martin. He then realized that they weren't actually there and started running away, but the Watchers were like, "You failed us, and everyone you care about is dead because of you, but you can bring them back if you continue to listen and do whatever we tell you to do." And Martin was like, "Okay, fine." Later, when Scott tells Martin that he's the boogeyman, but he's not planning on killing anyone, the Watchers are not too happy, to say the least. So they tell Martin to test Scott to see if he really wasn't going to kill someone, even if he got the opportunity, and he failed. So the Shadow tells Martin to kill Scott, but we know Scott pulled the Uno reverse card and killed Martin instead. Being dead, Martin is able to have another conversation with the Shadow where he wakes up in complete darkness and thinks that he won, that he's in the end and all his friends are there too. But the Watchers quickly tell him that's not the case and tell him in detail how he failed them twice, and that all this death and betrayal could have been avoided if no one chose to follow the basic life game rules. Ouch. Martin then asks them why they were so set on Grian, and they reveal that he wasn't supposed to be in the games, and that he's supposed to just be watching. But Martin doesn't understand because the Watchers took away everyone from Evo's memory of Grian becoming a Watcher. Then back to the endless sleepy void Martin and everyone else went. Double Life. So there's no actual lore that Martin did in Double Life, but we obviously know the Watchers changed the game again. Oh yeah, but the reason why Lizzie and Mumbo did not return for this game is because after each game, the aftermath of playing these death games kind of takes a toll on the player's souls, and the Watchers realize that everyone needs recovery time, some more than others, after each game. So the Watchers left Lizzie and Mumbo sleeping in the void because when everyone is in the void, it gives them a break. So yeah, after the game, they were all thrown back into the void until the next game. Limited Life. The Watchers changed the game, again, to the rules that were in Limited Life, and Ren did not return because his soul wasn't deemed ready yet. In Session 3, you know the session that Grian was AFK, the reason why Grian was in that state was because the Watchers made an attempt to remove him from the game, but they realized earlier that they can't remove him because he's a Watcher. So they put him in that state so he was forced to just watch. Also, early on in the season, the Watchers planted seeds in Martin's mind that he should again betray his ally, this time it being Scott. The Watchers also mentioned the listeners because they were saying they were annoyed that the listeners body swapped Pearl for Lizzie and Cleo for Jem. And this starts the unofficial war between the Watchers and the listeners. So basically this whole thing happened because Pearl and Cleo's souls actually weren't ready for the next game, but the Watchers were like, good enough, and threw them in the game anyways. The listeners had been aware of everything that was happening with the life games and realized Cleo and Pearl weren't ready, so they switched their souls out so they could rest for a little longer. Lizzie and Jem didn't say anything and just went along with everything because the listeners told them not to say anything, and Cleo and Pearl didn't mention anything being weird the previous session because they didn't know they were soul swapped. As Cleo put it, they had an amnesia cold and only remember bits and pieces of what happened last session. Oh yeah, so the actual lore reason why Joel was able to recognize Pearl as Lizzie is because they're soulmates in every universe and they will always be able to find each other no matter what. Ah! I'm sorry, I just love that part of the AU so much. Anyways, when Jimmy dies first for the 4th time, the Watchers actually name drop the Canary Curse, meaning this actual curse is canon. Flipping to the last session, the Watchers didn't necessarily want Martin to win, but they hate Scott from what he did in Last Life, and Impulse was about to give up when it was just the 3 of them, and the Watchers did not like that. So they kind of possessed Martin and made him do what he did, although it was also part of Martin who made those final decisions. Afterwards, the Watchers didn't kill Martin right away. He went to his hourglass and moved all the red sand down to the bottom, right as his timer reached 0. Then Martin is taken to the sleepy void and we see the listeners protecting one of Martin's fragments. What does this mean? So basically everyone has these things called fragments, and they make up their souls, but are fractured after each game. They kind of look like scars, but are white and glowy. Because of Martin's involvement with the Watchers and listeners, and their war going on, Martin has smaller fragments as well. But if someone wins a life game, the listeners are able to protect one of their fragments, which helps to heal them, which is what happened to Martin this game. Secret Life. Game changes again. Ren's still not ready, but Lizzie and Mumbo are. Jem added. They added Jem because the Watchers saw her in Limited Life when the whole soul-body swapping thing happened and decided to be petty. And when the listeners were healing Martin, they grabbed Jem and was like, oh, we want to throw her in for a session? How about we throw her in for a whole game? And Jem was like, hello, do I get a say in this? No. Oh, okay. The Watchers also decided to put the Secret Keeper statue and made up the whole, oh, the Secret Keeper gives the players their secret task, when it's actually the Watchers. And they also put a version of their symbol on the statue. Jimmy was able to recognize the symbol though, because he and everyone from Evo, remember Evo, except the whole Grian becoming a Watcher thing. The reason why the symbol is different is because it represents the power struggle between all of those in play. Grian, the Watchers, and now the listeners. And how the Watchers are kind of being pincered and losing the full grip that they had on the games. The feud between the ethereal beings is getting larger, so the game is able to be affected more easily through disruptions from the listeners, like the Canary Curse being disrupted and not fully broken. Sorry, Jimmy. But the Watchers didn't let Jimmy off that easily after he died, so they brought him back as a ghost to feed off of more of his emotions. Also, Tango was body swapped for the same reason as Cleo and Pearl from the last game, but the listeners were able to do it more easily because of their stronger influence. Moving on to the very end. The reason why Scar didn't die right after he won was because the Watchers were still enjoying tormenting him, even though they had been the whole season by forcing him to be the villain, and were squeezing out as much emotion from him as possible. They kept him trapped there, and Scar kept pushing the success button over and over again, hoping for something different to happen, but he kept getting the same book, Win Secret Life. He keeps trying to himself, but the Watchers won't let him die. He just wants this to end for good or have another death game happen, but it doesn't. The Watchers just leave him there, trapped, all by himself, having to deal with everything he was forced to do and never being able to apologize. Yeah, I'm gonna start crying, and I wrote this spiel. Thanks, Martin. But yeah, that's about it. I really hope you guys enjoyed, and I hope there isn't any part that was confusing. If there is, feel free to ask in the comments, and I will try my best to rephrase. But if you guys want to learn even more about this AU, I highly suggest watching Martin's lore stream VODs, which I will link in the description. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you guys maybe next time. Bye!
It will be done.